Can I do that?
No, dude. That looks.
But that is so funny.
It's so good.
Okay, now unlock it quickly. Ah, you had to do a reach around with your index. And maybe you're into that,
So
but I'm not.
I would.
I think we are going to tell you the site of the year on this video. I picked out 3 sites, and I think all 3 are candidates for site of the year. What do you think about my 3 picks?
I think they're very good options, honestly. I think they're all relevant. There's probably one missing from here, but it's probably because you didn't have it. And actually, I can go get it.
What is it?
A dialed proof.
No.
It has all the same adjustments as all these sites, and it's new this year. So, I mean, relevancy, it's probably relevant. But either way.
How does let's just address dialed right now. I have tried dialed in the past.
Yeah, you tried the original, what do they call ArcSos, right?
And I loved the angle of the rail. I thought that was a really cool idea.
Okay.
I hadn't seen anyone do that.
Okay.
Multiple site tape options or whatever, that's cool. I was always worried about its durability, so I guess honorable mention is them.
It's a lot better than it was.
Tell me the top reasons why they've
Well, it's got all
gotten
the
better.
adjustments you need. The rail actually moves.
Okay.
The tolerances are a lot better. There's nothing about it that makes me go, eh. Where the first one, I wouldn't make a video on it.
Okay.
Because I would have had a hard time not being nice. Yeah.
Fair.
And not even just being my normal self. I would have had, like, if I can't come up with multiple really positive things to say about something as well as a bunch of negatives, which I'm sure you're used to hearing from me, I can't do it. Like, I'm not just going to crap all over a company. Because the first ones I saw were not good.
Okay.
Personally. I am drastically impressed by that much change of better quality, better adjustments, etc. over a year or whatnot. So I was real impressed with it. It'd be right up there in my choices of who really makes
That's
the best
surprising.
site.
I will say this. I've met those guys. They're great dudes. They're hardworking.
Yeah.
But they kind of bootstrap the company together, and then they come in with a site that hasn't really seen testing, like proving grounds.
Well, that's the hard part, though. When you're a new company, right?
then what
you've
was
got
the
an
price
idea.
point?
That was a lot. Yeah.
They came in at an
Yeah.
incredibly high price point with
Yeah.
something that hadn't been vetted, so it kind of like gave me a little bit of. So it's good to hear that you mentioned them as an honorable mention, but we're
Yeah.
not here to talk about them today.
Better
We're here to
site.
break these 3 down, and I think most guys are really want to know Excel driver versus the Mathews UV slider. We can do that. We'll get to those. Let's talk about HHAs. Give them some love. They're out of Wisconsin. I've been to their factory. It is inside a house.
I remember
Which is
that
okay.
video, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you absolutely love about this Nitrix?
Is this the Pro?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so there's a couple of things about this that I really like. One, I've always liked HHA scope heads. They're not super heavy, and the pins are really pleasing to look at. A lot of pins are beefy and fat, even though you're going to get deceived by the diameter of fiber they tell you that it is. But a lot of times the pin's so big that the fiber size doesn't matter because all you see is this big block when you're trying to aim. And for me, that's really difficult. I like to look at the target. I don't like to look at the pin. And when the pin's big and blocky, it's very hard to look past it. It's almost like it obstructs your target, even when you have both eyes open to look through. So I commend them for having really, really good pins, good brightness. They're the first one to put like a rheostat on a site to where you can cover the fiber or uncover the fiber. So if it's really bright outside, you can dim it down. Especially as your eyes get older, you'll see way more of a halo and way more of a flare, and once again, gets harder to aim with. I really like that feature. They probably have the best, most reliable geared system out of everybody, because it's one of the only ones you see that actually is made of metal, like there's no plastic anywhere. It's all metal. It moves and shifts cleanly in a nice fashion. The knob size is really good. I do really like the locking feature on the knobs. Another one that could have been in here is probably Spot Hog Booney, even though it's last year's site when they came out with it. It has the same locking feature. So you can tighten or loosen how much tension it takes to move your sight on the side. So if as you're on the fly, if you're like, it's too stiff, you just bring your hand back, rotate a little bit, keep spinning. It works really nice. The tolerances are really good in here. But the biggest thing that I would say that made this sight relevant to me is they added a first axis adjustment for the first time in the history of their company. That one and the dialed were the last two bastions that were refusing to do that. Spot Hog caved last year. These two caved this year. Now everyone has a first axis rail adjustment, and I can stop bitching about it like I have been for the last 8 or 9 years. So a lot of good improvement here. My negatives, it's heavy.
Ooh, it does look like a hammer.
It is heavy. Like if I had like 6 of these laid out a week ago when we were going over stuff, and it was like, Jesus, like this is heavier than a Spot Hog with the 3-pin head on it.
What?
Yeah, it is. And the Booney's a lot lighter than the
When
Fast
you
Eddie
can flex
XL.
on Spot Hog,
Yeah, for
you're
being
doing
too heavy.
for the beef.
Yeah, so my only gripe here really is weight. And it just is. And I want to say this is brass, and that's probably not helping. And this is brass, because brass is about the heaviest metal you can get.
That's good. I guess I will say that I like how their pins come together at an angle to give you as much real estate, pin free, post free. Nothing sucks worse than a big old juicy post with a pin on it. Bubble's decently good sized. It's not too small. It's not too big. You do have the light attachment option for the states that are legal in those dark ground blinds. I think it should be legal in all states.
Well, and that's a rechargeable one now, if I remember.
Right.
They added that
And
as
it's
an option.
US. If you look in there, it's
USB-C.
I think it's micro USB. If you look at that guy,
Dude, I can't see that close enough.
I can.
No, it's USB-C. It should have came with a cable.
Where is it?
Top right here.
It's right there. So turn it towards the light.
That's a micro USB for sure. I'm positive.
Doesn't that suck?
Why?
Like, don't do that.
Why do that? Oh man,
When you're putting
that's just taking a left before cool.
when you're loosening this to slide the whole modular head, like when you're gonna do that whole deal
Yeah.
and get it set in, you have to it's coarse.
It's
you guys-
hot dog hallway kind of loosey goosey slide. I mean, it's nice that you can specifically set that at the maximum range of the sight, which is cool. But it would be way better if there was some kind of thread or gear in there
Something
to force it
click,
in.
click.
And when you start talking about $500 sights, which this is a $500 sight, there shouldn't be a feature you don't have.
That's well said.
that fair?
I think that's really well said.
If you're going to spend half of $1,000 on a site, there shouldn't be features that don't exist that are relatively common amongst the sites.
The nice thing was this feature, I believe, was added last year, but you now have 3-pin
Yeah.
indicators that you can adjust, and you have a wide range.
Yeah.
And so you can run a vertical or horizontal. And I will get into the vertical pins, which I like. That's a better sight picture. But there's nothing worse than having a top pin that says 20 and your second pin is 43.5, and that's what it is. And then your third pin is 64. That's not going to work in hunting.
Why in the hell? Honestly, at this point, why in the hell? Since Spot Hog came out with a 3-pin vertical adjustable, 4 years ago? Why has nobody else made a better one? Where
Probably
they all
some
move?
trademarks, maybe. Or?
No. So that was a Trophy Ridge patent that expired, which is why all of a sudden vertical adjustable pins showed up on 3 different sites in 1 year. It's because that was somebody else's patent that they let lapse. So anybody can use that technology, and for the life of me, I do not understand why more people aren't using it.
They're listening.
They're trying.
They're going to listen to this.
They're trying to half-ass it. Is what
Come
they're doing.
on.
They're putting 3 holes in a pin and throwing fiber in it and saying, "Here, we half-assed our way to what you wanted because we don't have to change our design." No different than we don't want to change our first axis adjustment thing forever and a
We'll
day.
get you guys to come around. Lastly, I'm going to agree with Josh, switching this out, different tapes for tack and stuff.
Nice.
And also, sighting in is so easy with their sight-in process. You get it set to 0, you find your 20, and then you just roll down until you find 60.
Yep.
On a low wind, consistent shooting day, you find your number, it matches up, book a sight tapes, and you can have several different sight tapes. So all in all, it's not a giant housing, so you don't have to peep up to a quarter inch.
I do like that.
And it's
Most
made
of these
really
things
well.
are too big for a movable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start getting those really large housings and then start trying to frame it as it moves up and down your sight. It's difficult.
I'm going to give, this is definitely third place for me, but I'm going to say this is the reason why I picked sight of the year is that it's got every feature you could ever want,
Yep.
and it's like a safe bet.
Yep.
Like you're not giving anything up really. This is a safe, good bet for your $500.
I agree.
Okay, well, down to the crux of the video. This guy, which I have had a chance to run and test and vet, versus,
While we're talking.
yeah, we'll put that, the Excel driver. And one's supposedly going to be better than the other.
Well, they were both built with the same intention,
Okay,
to be the Mathews labeled sight. So was the dial.
so they competed for that?
Yeah, all of them did. So Mathews wanted a sight made for them, and they all three kind of put their best foot forward, and that's what they picked. This ended up being the sight that went on a Mathews bow. Isn't necessarily just because it's better.
I have a question
I'm
then.
not saying this sight isn't great. It is. This is a very good sight. There's very little I don't like about it, but there might be reasons beyond
Did
that.
everybody who got to throw their name in the hat get to have time with Mathews engineers?
I believe so. Yes, I believe they
That's
all did.
because to me, I love the Mathews engineers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're top of the heap. And I think if you're making sites and you get to rub elbows with Mathews engineers, you're going to see some improvement or some stuff you didn't think about.
One would assume. This is the same 3-pin head they've been making forever.
All right, I like it.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to
there's a
say.
reason it hasn't been changed. It's because nobody actually makes a better 3-pin movable head. They don't. Like, find me a pin adjustment system that works like this on anybody's, and for the weight that it is, right? And I think one thing that hasn't been, like, you had a scale, like an ounce scale.
Yes, I can tell you the
Let's
differences
see,
right now.
let's see which one of these is heavier.
This one is.
Yeah, this is the lightest thing out there, which is another one that surprised me because Mathews is really pushing light, right? Why didn't they pick the lighter one? But this does integrate a light on it, and this doesn't have a light with it, and I wonder what that light would weigh. Being fair,
yeah, that's true.
It might weigh an ounce, and it would be similar to the one that's on that HHA. So you could just weigh the little light that's on there because it screws in here, which is actually a really smart thing because the fiber is actually down in there. So when it's shining here, it's shining in a sealed container that's shining on fiber that's going to only make your dots brighten. No halos or anything else will glow in there. And there's a couple that are like that.
So what I was back to, like I was trying to tell you, is this is my favorite head of all time.
It's the most
Okay.
it's the best adjustable. It's the right size. I mean, honestly, personally, I wish it was just a tiny bit smaller. But it's a good size. It's not excessively large. The pin adjustment's fine. Really easy to
really
use,
weigh
and
like the
it's
word.
and it's light. Is the biggest part. It's actually like light.
So from the word go, dislike.
Okay, so
Watch this.
you're grabbing it wrong.
I have
ahead.
hunted with this,
I'm
and
aware.
I know that
So have
this ergonomically, this is so much better.
Can I ask you a question realistically?
Yeah.
When that's bolted on your bow,
Yeah.
are you holding it up here and holding your hand like this? Like, I mean, are you that nearsighted that you got to like bring it up here? No, you're holding it out here, which means you're holding it like this.
This is not a good argument, Josh. This is better ergonomically. You have to concede.
Okay, so let me see your bow. All right, so I'm not saying it's not better ergonomically, but because of where this lock is, you're going to actually hand your hand up like that. I'm simply stating that if you hold your sight like this and move it like that, because you're looking at your sight tape over here, you're not like this,
Right.
right? You're looking over here. Your hand's going to sit in a fashion like this, right, as you move it back and forth. So your thumb is going to be back like that as you move it down,
Right.
right? So now put the other one on.
Let's do it.
Okay, so now, let's get sight adjustment. Explain to me how this is any different.
That's just a smaller wheel,
It is, but it's not any harder to move up
but
and
it's
down.
good. But
And the way your hand sits on it.
okay, to get it to move it to 67.3, lock it in.
I don't lock my sight in.
Okay, well most people will lock it in.
I already did.
Okay, now unlock it quickly. You had to do a reach around with your index, and maybe you're into that,
So
but I'm not.
I would. So I would adjust the tension on this, though. I would play
Okay.
with it and set it where I felt it was adequate to stay on its own, and I would never lock my sight. I've shooting black golds for as long as I have. I've never locked one.
And then
Ever.
I guess I
I've
gotta-
taken the lock off of it because at the end of the day, I would want to be able to freely move it, but not have it move when I fire. I only want it to be firm enough that if I shoot at a target, it doesn't move in between shots. That's it. I'm not going to set it at like 30 yards, lock it down, and never adjust it. If I did that, why wouldn't I just have a fixed pin sight?
Yes.
I simply want to be able to move it at my leisure when it's most comfortable to me. And that is the one downfall I will give this brand, is that it's tricky to get it set to where you can feel comfortable that it's not going to move on its own when you fire your bow, but it's also not locked in.
One thing about this one
Yes.
is when you lock it, you can still move it. However, you can adjust that.
Yes.
You have it right here, and it needs to be pointed out. You have a set, and you can tighten to where
And I love that.
you
I
can
really
lock
do.
it in, and it will never
Yeah.
move.
Like this is authentically if we're giving them numbers, right? Let's say the winning score is 80. This is a 79 in my mind.
Okay.
Honestly, like it's right there. There's just a couple of things I dislike.
Let's just get right to what you dislike.
Number one, it's Chinese made.
Number two.
Number two, the pin picture on the vertical 3, the pins are way too big. Like
How
I
big?
can't get it narrow and I can't look past it.
And is there a lot of posts showing up?
A ton.
Okay.
Yeah, well, same with these. Like if you look at the thickness of that pin body,
Yep.
then look at the thickness of that pin body.
Yep.
What can you aim with better?
That.
So yeah, my issue, and honestly, I think this issue on the pin structure is going to be resolved when this is no longer a Mathews exclusive product, right? Because the Mathews exclusive product line has all 15,000 pins, all of them,
Right.
right? You can't pick.
Also-
Whereas the UltraView version, I am assuming because they offered it in the other ones that you'll be able to get a 10,000, a 15, or a 20, and you can get away from that pin blockiness. I hunted with the 3-pin vertical since November. I took it off my bow about a month ago. And every time I pointed with it, I couldn't look past it, which mentally for me is difficult. Like I want to be able to look at the target, let my brain put the fuzzy pin in the way, and not think about it. That's why I shoot a movable sight. That's why I shoot a specific distance every time I fire, because I don't want to pay attention to the pins and the relation of the pins against the target. I just want my brain to put the pin in the way. No different than I'm looking with a rifle scope and an X. I want to look at
that's
the
a good way
target
to
and let
say
my
it.
brain put the pin in the way.
Put the pin in the way.
Yeah.
All right, well, for features, since we're going to wrap this video up, we're going to say a couple things about it. One, we do have dual sight tapes, so you could potentially run, like for this is a 5-pin, so you could have your 60 start on this side, which I did. I set this side up to have a 20 floater, so my top pin's floater, and that would get me out to about $1.15. And then on this other side, I can start at 60, same sight tape,
Yeah.
and go out
And that's
further.
nice.
That's nice.
That's
Third
nice.
axis is super easy to adjust.
I did find one issue with that.
Talk to me.
Yeah. So if you're going to leave this on your bow when you're traveling, take the sight head off.
Yes.
Period. Because the way the third axis moves,
yeah.
it moves one way and has a resistance against it. There's not really a hard resistance going back the other way.
Sure.
It's not threaded. It's like a screw that sits against a piece of metal.
Yep.
So if you push the sight really hard one way, it moves the sight head over.
And it will make
you
that
can-
sound too.
You can you can shove it back, right? Which when I got to Mexico at Ray's, my scope head was like sideways because I didn't take it off.
That sucks.
Yeah, well, I got it back in 10 shots, but if I hadn't noticed it and just took off and went shooting stuff, I was that far off at 20 yards because of your third axis, because your pins actually move left to right when you adjust your third axis a little bit on this sight. Ideally, when you adjust the third axis, the pins would stay in a straight line and the whole sight would just move like this, but that's not how they adjust it. They adjust it that the movement happens back here, so whenever you move your third axis, you're actually moving your pins a little left to right.
The light's pretty good.
The integration of it's great, and that was the big hiccup with the
brightest,
previous one. 'cause
Tap it.
The battery dies all the time.
It'll go down, I think 3 settings, maybe 4.
I thought it was 4.
4, and then it will flash when it's off. And it is like finally they got rid of that hallway.
Yeah.
So all in all, like this is a really amazing sight that is expensive.
It is. It's $700.
Let's give this one a little bit more love. You don't have dual,
Take it off.
right? You don't have a dual sight tape capability.
Correct. That's one thing that this site is missing, and I question how many people are really doing that. I mean, I'm sure there's a percentage of people that really appreciate dual sight tapes.
Maybe for tack.
Well, but you can just take the original one on and off because they're metal, just like that. So the ability to go from a tack tape to a hunting tape, you can literally just take the original one off, swap them out.
Swap out.
So you can still do that. The only advantage, really, in my opinion, to the two is being able to use one pin for one distance,
Sure.
one pin for another, like you're talking
Yeah.
about, which is a great advantage. I've always kept my movable pin on my bottom pin,
Yeah.
but I also don't shoot a lot of pins. I don't shoot like 5. So I get why you're trying to do it the way you're doing it. The indicator needles in here are awesome.
They do look nice.
Really good indicator needles. The rail adjustment is micro drive with an actual screw driven, so is that. The third axis is all right here, so it's not
I
threaded.
don't really like that particular
not ideal.
location.
Well,
You would agree?
You can at least get at it with an Allen wrench, right? The previous third axis one, you couldn't.
like
You'd have it was like stubby wrench back this way.
Yeah.
So they made it to where you can get at it easily.
That's good.
All in all, I think the reality of this is these are both excellent products. This is less expensive by $200 average.
Really?
Yes.
That's a significant
This
savings.
is a $500 sight.
This has a stop.
weighs less.
This has a stop.
Yes, they both have a 0-stop 20 that you can adjust so you can get the optimal round range out of the sight. Not quite like HHA's where you can move the sight adjustment all the way up and then move the head independently,
Yeah.
which is like black gold.
Yeah.
To where your movement down, you're not gonna sacrifice any of that.
Yeah.
But wherever one's gonna shoot these things at anyway, you're gonna run out of movement down by running into your arrow, not running out of sight travel. So it's really not super relevant to have the ability to move the head up and down independently. But the nice thing about the way that is if your whole sight gets shifted a little bit, right? You can still do it with that. You got to move your indicator, but you can move the head. And I do like that a little nicer. It would be nice to see that on these things, but the way they're built, I don't think you can get away with it.
Okay, the two more things, and this is it, guys. And the last one will be the elephant in the room. But windage adjustment,
It's
pretty nice.
It's an easier windage adjustment, and that feels a ton better than the original version 1.
Show us that one.
This one is a slide and a micro, and it's got a little lock here on it. So
Coarse and
I might have just locked
micro.
it. Did I unlock it? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you got micro adjustment and coarse adjustment.
Okay.
And it's still toolless for the micro.
Yeah.
So you're toolless micro.
Yep.
Not really. I mean, this is ergonomically a little nicer, and I would love to see what one of these feels like in 6 months because
Yeah, I guess we'll
the
find out.
original ones got real gritty, real quick.
Gritty, grimy. Yeah.
Grimy.
Yeah.
And because I mean that's a beautiful system if it's sealed up enough that it
True.
doesn't get crap in it.
Okay.
Where this is a type of micro drive system that's been around forever, and typically you'll get years and years and years of use before it starts to get gritty.
I can adjust the second axis. I can swap out heads. I can go
Yes.
from A to B manufacturer.
Yeah.
Nothing's enslaved. Is that the right word?
Yeah, nothing's built in slaves. So
This, however, is.
you can swap heads on it, but it's slaved, right?
Right.
So you're probably only going to want to put an UltraView head on there. In theory, the product should be machined clean and square, and it should line up. But there's a possibility if you start interchanging heads on these sites with different brands, it doesn't line up. Mm-hmm. And that's where you need to have those two independent of each other.
And you won't have that adjustment
On
if you
either
run
of
it
these.
on either one of these. So
Yeah.
what Josh is not saying is, let's say you're going to do some wheeling cam orientation and you move that string angle.
Yeah.
You're telling me I put a string level on there, I've changed it, but it still won't affect, I won't need to move my bubble.
No, because you'll actually move the rail, which is what you should be adjusting anyway, because the rail itself needs to stay square to the string to get accuracy all the way downrange at 100, 150, right?
Yep.
So if you just moved your bubble, you left your rail where it's no longer square.
Gotcha.
And that's a relevant change that you don't want to make. So the fact that these are slave is not a bad thing.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're okay with not having a second axis adjustment because it's already
If
married.
the scope head already comes on the site and they're already square to each other, and you can check that, like you put a squared level on here,
Yep.
that should be level. Now, once again, if there's also an adjustment for your level independent of the scope head, that's okay too.
Right.
Because that is a second axis adjustment.
Yeah.
It's just in the scope bubble.
But that ain't.
They're fixed. But
Yep.
they shouldn't need to be, right? They should be married to each other.
Lean
It
in
shouldn't
on
matter.
that, folks, because I know that's a big concern.
Once again, if you're spending $500+, that shit should be square. Period. You shouldn't find one of these that isn't.
Finally, price point?
$500. There's variance in here based off of the scope head.
True.
Where there's not variance in here based off of the scope head.
Oh.
You put the different pins in, they all cost the same. The different pins in here do change the price. You can actually get a single pin version of this, I think, for about $4.
Ooh.
So now we're talking $400, depending on what configuration.
And
you
this
pick.
guy, you can buy all the different cartridges and run several different variations.
You can. And you can also buy different heads for this and swap them out.
Exactly. Could you ever put this on this?
No.
Okay.
No, because you can't. You're not going to get away from the dowel. The way you can't buy this scope head with these pins in it without it being on a round dowel.
Exactly.
So now you could buy an UltraView head and put it on here.
Yeah.
Because they sell different
Yeah.
adapters for that. But yeah, Excel doesn't go that way.
You wouldn't do that.
Excel doesn't play that way.
Yeah.
Why would you take this beautiful
This-
pin fixture and? Well, actually, I could see where you'd put it on that if you could.
$699?
$699 sounds better. 700, right?
$499?
Depending on the configuration, that can get over 500.
Okay. So,
So this and this are about the same price.
okay,
on most
so
configs.
which is the site of the year according to you, Josh Jones?
Absolutely. Honestly. Is there $200 worth of benefit here? I don't see it. I really don't. Integrated light's nice. I don't know how expensive that should be. The ergonomics of this, I will agree, are a little bit better, but it's minimal to me. It's not drastic. I do like the way this locks a little better than this, but I love the way these pins move. Those are still slide adjustable pins, right? You're trying
Yep.
to adjust them by
It's
slide
coarse.
at $700. It's
coarse.
coarse. It's not as precise. Where this is easily
This is
precise.
incredibly accurate that way. Yeah, I get you there.
It's a better pin to aim with. Now the UltraView specific version of this might resolve that. You know, you might end up
Time
with
will
pins,
tell.
but we have no way to see that right now.
Okay.
So we don't know. But so yeah, if you're taking my money and telling me which one of these is a better site, I'm not gonna not take into account money.
That's fair. I think
Right?
most people
and
will
this
agree.
is $200 less, which in this scenario is what, 15% less.
Yes.
So is this 15% better?
I think this is going to depend on what you want. I tell you this much.
Someone sounds politically correct over here.
I can't make a decision today, but I will say this.
Oh my god!
Look at what I'm running in 2025 in the fall. Like, it doesn't matter how many videos I make on this arrow, that broadhead, whatever. You'll see what I've decided confidence-wise. But I can tell
Are you running for office anytime soon?
Ha! No, I mean real. I don't have a final decision yet.
All right.
I run an Excel landslide currently.
Yeah.
I like their head the best, mainly because of this doodad back here, and it's really, really bright. And I can't put a light on most of my sites because I hunt states that have that lame rule, and I gotta follow rules.
Yeah, me too. And that part kind of sucks that that's integrated. I'd like to see how they make one without it, but currently there isn't an option there. But you can easily add a light to this. You can't easily take away the light from that.
All of them are amazing. You guys pick what gives you the most confidence. I feel like this was a fun, longer form conversation. Josh is the best. He has his opinions, and I like that he believes in what he believes. The dude knows his stuff. Separation is in the preparation. Make sure you head over to this dude's channel, tap the subscribe button. He's busting out content every day. Head over to podiumarcher.com, throw in the discount code ElkShape to save 10%. We'll catch you on the next one.